to study session. So the first only item up in our study session, 5.1, from our Community Partnership Office, update on Homeward Alliance lead agency to address homelessness in Loveland. And Allison Haight is going to lead off. Welcome, Allison, and team.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I'm Allison Haight in the Community Partnership Office. With me tonight is David Root, the Executive Director of Homeward Alliance, and two of the newest staff members of Homeward Alliance, Sandra Wright and Sabrina Stoker. I'm going to give a brief history of how we got here tonight, primarily because we have three new council members. By the way, I'm going to get in touch with each of you so we can get together in January. Yeah, Councillor McFall, yes. So that I can take a sort of a deeper dive into the areas of homelessness and affordable housing in the work of our office. Tonight, I'm also going to give some shelter numbers because I understand that question came up in one of the last two council meetings, so I thought this would be a good time to give you an update. And then I'm going to turn it over to Homeward Alliance. I want to point out that these slides have the date of December 7th. So this was originally on last week's presentation, and the slides haven't changed, but I do realize it is the 14th. Because we were scheduled to go at the end of the night a week ago, you'll find that in many respects this presentation goes very quickly. It won't be 55 minutes. You're welcome, Councillor Fogel, for that. So we started this process in 2018 at the request actually of Councillor Overcash. We hired the University of Denver Burns Center on Poverty and Homelessness, and they completed a report that describes in depth the services that we have in Loveland to work with our homeless residents. And they also compared that to services in other communities so that we could take a look at gaps that we have here and how we can work to fulfill them. Right after that, we released an RFP, and Homeward Alliance happened to be the only organization and the right organization to submit a proposal. That was in early 2020. In fact, we were scheduled to bring that item to you that second Tuesday in March of 2020, and that was your first City Council meeting over Zoom. Needless to say, the item was bumped. At that point, I thought, oh, that's too bad. It might take at least 6 months to get back. And in fact, we came back in June of this year to formally put in place what we needed to do to hire Homeward Alliance. Tonight, they're going to talk about what they've done and what they plan on doing. When they submitted their proposal, it included a lot of information about looking at collaborations with Loveland agencies. So the intent wasn't for Homeward Alliance to come in and start programs or projects in Loveland necessarily. The goal was for them to look at each agency and ask the questions of what are you doing? What are you doing that's working that you want to keep doing? What would you like to do if you had additional funding? Are there things that you would like to be doing in your agency but you can't see a road to get there? And are there gaps that we have agencies not fulfilling? And then how do we fulfill those? So that's the work that they are setting out to do. Not to come in here and bring all of their programs, although their programs are extensive and some of them are here. Before I turn it over to David, I wanted to give some shelter numbers. So the winter shelter has been open since November 9th, which was 5 weeks tonight. During the 3 weeks of November, from the 9th to the 30th, there were 40 unduplicated people sleeping at the shelter for a total of 293 shelter nights, which is an average of about 14 people a night. I'm going to turn it over to David to introduce his new staff.
Good evening. Can you all hear me okay?
Yeah, it's a little bit faint, but your microphone is on, so.
Okay, I'll try to speak up a little bit. My name is David Root. I am the Executive Director of Homeward Alliance. Thank you so much for having us here today. I am mainly here to introduce our newest team members who have really been doing the the legwork associated with our work as lead agency. But I just first want to say thank you to all of you for providing us with this opportunity, and for those of you who have been on council and for those of you who are new to council, we look forward to working with you over the next few years in our work as lead agency for the implementation of a strategic plan related to addressing homelessness here in the city of Loveland. So we posted originally to hire a couple of months ago, and actually went through a couple of rounds of posting because we really wanted to be sure when we brought on folks to actually take this work on, that we were hiring the right people. And I can confidently say here tonight that we have landed the right people to do this work, and I'm proud of the team sitting next to me here today, as well as the team behind the scenes at Homeward Alliance that has worked to support them, and I think will work to support them even more in the future. So mainly, again, like I said, I'm here to introduce the two women to my left, and that is Sandra Wright. Some of you may know Sandra Wright from her work as the director of the Community Kitchen here in Loveland. She, as the director of Community Kitchen, was responsible for a vast expansion of sort of Community Kitchen's involvement in the broader system of homelessness response across Larimer County, including establishing relationships with other nonprofit providers, both in Loveland and across our northern Colorado continuum of care. Even during the pandemic, the Community Kitchen did not close its doors, but rather found creative and new ways to serve food to people experiencing homelessness, and is just a widely respected leader in homelessness services here in Loveland, both among the agencies that serve people who are homeless and also people who are homeless themselves. We are thrilled to have Sandra as part of our team. And Sabrina Stoker is working with us in a consultant role. Sabrina, previous to this role, was the executive director of CASA, that is Court-Appointed Special Advocates in Larimer County. But as you can see from the slide, has 17 years of experience working in various settings, and really has helped provide strategic direction and sort of program management oversight to this project as we've gotten underway these last couple of months. I think the numbers speak for themselves with the work that Sabrina did at CASA, both increasing their funding, their volunteer base, and their program efficacy. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Sandra, and she will provide an overview of some of the work we've been up to, and after that, we'll open it up for questions.
Thank you, David. As David mentioned, both Sabrina and I are very happy to be here, and we're happy to be a part of this work that we believe is very important for Loveland. So you can see from this slide in year one that items that are shown in gray are completed, as well as items that are in green are in process, and the remaining items are still yet to have some work done. That same mechanism follows true for the slides that show year 2 and 3. I do want to draw attention to this the block that's in black, and it says produce quarterly reports on the state of homelessness in Loveland and the efforts to address it. So we are developing measures for the city to have an understanding of the larger picture, the successes that we have, and the failures and obstacles that we're going to encounter over the next few years, so that we have a complete picture of what's going on. An initial version of that data is going to be available by the end of March, and we anticipate that these reports are going to go through several iterations as we work together to develop more sophisticated metrics, and as well as a data dashboard. And we will determine, of course, with your feedback, how often you would like us to present that data to you. I am not necessarily going to go over each of these items that are listed here in years 1, and then also in years, in years 2 and 3. But if you do have any questions and want more information about those items, please let us know. You may notice that over time, over the next few years, that those items could change from year to year in which year they're completed. For example, on slide 2 here, there is thank you, David. There is, in the second column near the bottom, it says launch volunteer or professionally staffed street outreach program. And there has been some forward movement on that already, as Homeward Alliance was recently provided an opportunity to apply for funding related to street outreach. So it is possible that that could happen sooner than what was originally anticipated. Over the past couple of months, we have spent a considerable amount of time with Loveland agencies that provide services to those in our community experiencing homelessness. We spent time trying to understand the needs that our current agencies are facing, as well as trends that they're seeing, and to begin discussions on how we can have a greater impact by working more collaboratively together. And because of that work, and because of those conversations, we are coming up with creative ways to have further collaboration among the agencies to meet some of the more immediate needs that those experiencing homelessness are experiencing, as well as address some of those longer-term goals. We have found that the Loveland agencies are anxious to convene as a group and work together to address those gaps. An example of this is that last week we had a meeting with House and Neighborly Services as well as 137 Homeless Connect to brainstorm and to talk about various ways that we could, in essence, keep the building at 137 open longer for people to have access to not only having a space to be, but also to the showers as well as the laundry facility for longer periods of time during the day. And we left that meeting with with House and Neighborly Services and 137 agreeing to actively start searching for an agency to fill that gap with the afternoon hours. And so they are currently reaching out to other agencies to see if there is someone who can help man those hours at that building so that those experiencing homelessness can have access to those services. As House of Neighborly Services and 137 make progress with that, they will be updating the community. Many agencies are also anxious to start using the Regional Homeless Management Information System database. We call that the HMIS database. And that includes interest from House of Neighborly Services, 137 Disabled Resource Services, Servant's Heart, and of course the city's night shelter. That doesn't mean that there aren't other agencies that are interested, but those are just the ones who we have been able to speak with so far and have expressed that interest. And if you have more questions about that, David can speak more to the value regarding that database. Homeward Alliance's Hand Up program has a location at the Life Center, and they are currently working with Loveland residents regarding employment opportunities. And Homeward Alliance resource navigators are spending about 15 plus hours a week at various Loveland agencies that are working with those experiencing homelessness, such as the Community Kitchen and 137 and Salvation Army, and they have hours at the library and House of Neighborly Services to help individuals gain their IDs, benefits such as Medicaid, old age pension, and food stamps, to talk with them about access to housing and how that specifically relates to that person, and then also connecting them with other resources in the community. The community at large is also very anxious to get involved, and we are actively working on establishing a governing board, and that is in process, and the first meeting should occur in January of 2022, and we are reaching out to potential members of that, as well as working to make sure to sync up calendars regarding that. So those are kind of a highlight of the activities that Homeward Alliance has been performing over the past couple of months. And we are happy to answer any additional questions that you may have, or if there is a specific item on the PowerPoint that you would like more detail on, we're happy to answer those questions as well. Thank you.
I'm looking for lights. I'm not seeing any. Okay, Counselor Sampson.
Thank you. I'll try and keep this brief. Thank you, Madam Chair. Like Allison already knows, and I think you already know my heart for this, but Sandra, I am so excited. When I heard that you were taking on this role, I was like, how is she going to do that and do community kitchen? Like, what's she going to, she's already like so everything. And now you are even more everything. Which I think is just amazing. You're such an asset to our community. You just, your implementation of things is just, I mean, you're just brilliant. And the things you've done at Community Kitchen are just amazing. I cannot wait to see the work that you do here for the city, and thank you for doing this with Homeward Alliance. And of course, Allison, everyone already knows I'm in love with Allison, so of course it extends to you. But I'm super excited too, Sabrina. Your resume is really impressive, so it seems that this is totally your wheelhouse, and it's like you guys just have an incredible team. So super exciting. And you asked about, I don't have any questions. I fully trust you guys, and because of that, and to speak to that, you asked how often we maybe might like to for you to provide feedback. I wouldn't think personally that I would need to hear from you more than maybe 2 times a year as we head into extreme seasons or out of an extreme season. So like spring and fall, something, how we're preparing for winter, what winter looked like, and how we're preparing for summer. But we get we recently had a public comment from an unhoused community member who was concerned about carrying her bedding. And I don't know, I'm sure, Allison, you saw that, but, I know, Allison, you stay on top of it, but regular check-ins so that you're hearing what we're hearing. And then, we usually do a good job of communicating that, I think, via email. But as far as, I really don't want you here in front of us wasting your time. Like, I know you just want to do the work. Just do the work. We trust you. I trust you. So thank you for all of this. And I guess we'll see you in 6 months.
All right, Councilor Olson.
Yeah, David, good to see you again. Thanks for being here. Sandra, I haven't seen much of you out of the community kitchen, so welcome. And Sabrina, welcome. Look forward to meeting with you, all of you. I'm more interested in more active involvement in this. Since I was elected, as Allison knows, this became a crusade for me, and created a group of 24 agencies, nonprofit, healthcare, and so forth, to look at the 3 biggest challenges facing Loveland. Homelessness was one of them. Suicide is another, and drug use is another. Well, homeless, that affects all of them. So it's an area I'm very vitally interested in. I just want to convey, if David hasn't or Allison hasn't, my interest is helping people get out of homeless, and I want to help do everything we can do to help people get out of homelessness. And I'm not really interested in giving handouts. I'm interested in giving hand-ups. So that's kind of my perspective. So that's what I'm interested in. Sabrina, you're the strategist, I guess. So that's an area that I have a background in as well, and I'm looking for a strategy to accomplish that. So that's what I look forward to. Thank you.
Councilor Ball.
Sabrina, are you staying with Community Kitchen?
That's Sandra.
I mean Sandra.
No
sorry.
worries. I am staying with Community Kitchen over the next several months. We have recently hired an associate director, and his name is Jason Morgan, and his first day was yesterday, and he is training to take over the position of executive director of the kitchen.
Okay, great. Well, I'm really interested in what David proposed and Allison when you first came to us, and that is the collaboration with all of the existing Loveland regional nonprofits and organizations. And I think we can just make, as you know, you can't do it all yourself, and I really want you to think out of the box and figure out how you can get them to do more, all those different agencies, with you leading the way. And I'll give a little analogy here I just thought about, but for years and years, there was a very fine university in Denver called Colorado Women's College. It was out on the east part, out by the old airport. It was a private, rather exclusive school, but it was an excellent institution. And along came a guy, I finally just remembered his name, Temple Buell. And he was a very, very wealthy philanthropist who'd done a lot with real estate in Denver. And I think he endowed the university for over $100 million. And everybody was so excited. And they changed the name to Temple Buell University. Well, guess what? In less than 10 years, that university was bankrupt. You know why? The university lost all of its donors. All of the individual small donors that had supported that university since its inception, including some big families here in Loveland, the Foote family and the Pulliam family. And it was the biggest mistake they ever made. And it's out of business. And that's why we need to have you stay local, stay with all the nonprofits, all of them, so those individual donors know that they're helping to eradicate or minimize homelessness. So I'm really, really big on collaboration. And that story, I think, is a very mindful one, because, you know, you can come in and take over, and guess what? You're going to lose all the great initiatives. So I want you to keep all that in mind. Thank you.
So is there going to be a point in time, date this year where we go hit the streets and try to locate people? Are we doing that this year?
Yes.
Okay.
Time count will happen, oh, sorry about that. The point in time count will happen at the end of January.
Can some of us volunteer to be included? Yeah, I would like to volunteer for that.
It's on the list, the third one down on the left-hand side in green. The point in time count, for people who don't know, is something that happens nationally in the last 10 days in January. It didn't happen really this last year in 2021, and in 2022 we will do both a sheltered and an unsheltered count. Our last unsheltered count happened in 2019, where we found 91 people sleeping outside. That's over one night. So that takes a great deal of effort to go to places where we know people will be, and then actually go into camps. We go to the Walmart parking lot. We go to multiple parking lots, don't we, boss? And just drive around town and look for people who are standing on corners and interview them to understand how many people we have, mostly during the winter, sleeping outside on some of our coldest nights. And yes, it'll be the last Tuesday in January, but there will be other opportunities to help on both Wednesday night and probably during the day on both Tuesday and Wednesday. So we'll be in touch.
All right, so city manager, last Tuesday in January, either no meeting or a very brief meeting. So, you know, I know Homeward Alliance is kind of forward-looking, you know, this is going to take time, but currently we have some emergency encampments that are happening. I'm getting phone calls and emails, and I'm sure many people on council are, you know, 8th Street and Railroad, King's Crossing, has anybody, to your knowledge, worked on like a parking lot for city-owned property, parking lot for campers and people sleeping in cars, and then city-owned property for campsites? This is affecting our parks and rec. You know, dogs are stepping on needles. We need to protect each. We need to protect our homeless community, and as well as our homed community that are trying to enjoy parks and trails and open lands. So has anybody talked about kind of some emergency where there's a safe place, protected with security and facilities like bathrooms and stuff, that we could immediately, you know, place people where all are safe?
So there are two parts to your question.
Okay.
The first one that I'm going to talk about is a not national program. It's mostly on the West Coast, called Safe Park. That is not on the list of Homeward Alliance's work plan that they came up with, but it also isn't not on the list. So one of the things that Sandra just said is that you'll see this list will change over time. The reason I'm answering this question is because the issue of camping has not made its way to Homeward Alliance at this point. Mm-hmm. What they won't be doing is coming in to say, here's your immediate problem, we're going to fix it. Because their proposal is to create long-term sustainable solutions versus what I call swooping in to ensure that whatever's happening on the streets literally right now gets fixed. So the first part of the question, families sleeping in cars, there will be a meeting this Friday to talk about that. It won't be the first meeting because several of us got together a few years ago to talk about what is called the Safe Park Program. So we'll be able to see if that's something that we can work out in Loveland, and then at that point, of course, Homeward Alliance would, without question, be involved to look at researching potentially what's happening in other states, what are the logistics, what kind of funding is needed, because that's something that's always going to be required for a program, including a place for people to use a restroom and to have some oversight. The second part of that question is people who are camping outside. That's a much more difficult solution. So for that one, we are looking long-term. Next April, we'll have the groundbreaking for the St. Valentine's Apartments with Archdiocesan Housing. As you recall, most of you are on the council when you granted them an affordable housing designation for this property with 4 acres of land and a change to the intergovernmental agreement with Larimer County in order to build these 54 units across the street from the police and courts building. On February 1st, Archdiocesan Housing applied for and received a 9% low-income housing tax credit award, which gives them about $12 million of the $15 million that they needed to raise in order to build the housing. And they'll break ground we're expecting in April. It'll take about a year to build, and then they'll start leasing. What we're doing now in terms of your question of people who are camping is we're becoming very familiar with who is camping and where. And the people who are have the very highest needs, who are the deepest in our open lands, are on a list now to get housing at St. Valentine's Apartments.
Okay.
So they are people who, some of the people who will get housing there are on other housing lists, but they have no intention of leaving Loveland. There are people who are on our housing lists who were born and raised here and are now homeless here. So without St. Valentine's Apartments, we don't stand a chance of working on the second issue of people camping in our open lands. It's through the St. Valentine's Apartment that we're going to be able to make a bigger difference there.
So short term, we couldn't find a space that is in our open lands or park to safely encourage people to camp there while we're working on the Valentine Apartments.
So what we are doing right now is encouraging people to safely camp. And the Risk Management Department recently hired a young man by the name of Jordan with incredible experience who's doing a very good job of working to keep the camps clean, free of human and other hazards that are there. And we're going to look, with the help of Homeward Alliance, at ways that we can make sure that people who are living out there are taking responsibility for the open lands as well. So that is a conversation that our office has started with Homeward Alliance. Yes, it would be great to have one designated spot. To be honest, I don't think that that would necessarily fix it unless, of course, it was in a place where people could remain hidden. Because when you're living outside, one of your biggest goals is to remain hidden. So it couldn't necessarily be like, say, in the Albertsons parking lot, which many people have suggested to me, because I don't think that people would go there. So we are starting those conversations, and really what's key is making sure that people are safe. People who are camping are safe, the rest of Loveland is safe, and our open lands are safe. So we're starting those discussions.
I appreciate that, and we're in a study session, so we can't take any action, but I will. The city manager and I have talked about this a number of times recently, and it really is a high priority for me that we take some action, we get something done, and we provide space for all to be safe. Yeah, that's at least my 2 cents for that. Councilor Sampson, your light is on.
Yeah, just one last thought. And I didn't gush about David, and I should have, but I think David knows how much I appreciate him. But thank you, David, for your work. You've put together an exemplary team. My question to you guys, or the thought was, we just had LPD here presenting, and they have this new virtual reality scenario, where you can practice being the person who you would normally be assisting and the police officer. I was curious if you haven't already established, I know the city obviously has a good partnership, but if Homeward Alliance doesn't already have a good partnership with our PD, that, that's something that you work toward, but also perhaps incorporating that virtual reality into their response for our unhoused residents as well. So I don't know if you guys knew about that or, might be brand new for you, was for me.
Hello, everyone. We do have representation from LPD on the advisory board. Garrett Osilka and Sergeant Megan Eisentrout. Thank you. So we do anticipate that as we're having these conversations, we're working in tandem. That's part of that collaborative effort that we're talking about, and being strategic is we have all the right players at the table so that we can learn and hear what's happening. We're getting real-time information on who's doing what and how we can partner together to leverage that work together. So yes, I think that's a fantastic idea, and we will certainly bring it up when we meet in January. Thank you, Andrea.
Right. Any other counselors wish to ask questions or comment? Nobody? No, okay, all right. Well, this is kind of a study session, so there is no motion. This is your opportunity.
I'll jump in and just,
Yeah, well, you got to get your feet wet.
I would love to see us look at the roadmap per se that HUD uses for their opportunity zones and look for ways of using that roadmap for local residents, local businesses to be able to participate in a program to help further this along, to where it's an incentive like using what's happened, because that opportunity zone was extremely successful in moving forward some of those initiatives that it was meant to be used for. So I would love to see us look for an opportunity and use that as kind of a, here's how it is, and then tailor it to our specific needs.
Right, well, I've not seen any of the lights, so certainly want to thank Allison, David, and Sabrina, and Sandra for all your hard work and all that you will continue to do for us. Please do reach out for some of us to join you in the point in time walk. I definitely want to attend. I hope it's warmer than 8 degrees the last time I went. But we'll bundle up and we'll be ready. All right, I think that's it. Thank you. Thank you for that. We are adjourned study session, and we are